Press releases?
Press releases, absolutely. Okay. Podcasting, that's another thing that a lot of people have to do or suggested to do. You know, if you're regularly podcasting, you're generating traffic and hitting people in different modalities and getting a wider audience. I guess product creation is a big thing. Obviously, there's no point having a website if you've got no way to actually monetize that, and creating products is a great way. Even sort of offline stuff too. Actually, sort of going offline to generate traffic.
Such as?
Magazines, getting articles in magazines. So taking guest posting and guest blogging to sort of the next level and going offline is a great way of doing that. There's heaps of stuff. We can sort of sit here for an hour and keep going. It's probably a good start.
What about articles? We don't have articles on here.
Article marketing, yeah, absolutely. Article marketing is another great way to drive traffic regularly to your site. Guest posting, press releases. I just almost like taking content into syndicating. So there's article marketing. There's also things like getting the PDFs syndicated on things like Scribe.com and stuff like that. So it's like article marketing, but it's just another platform to sort of get PDF distribution. Is another sort of way to get backlinks and drive traffic to a site. What else have we got? We've got sort of blog posts, forum marketing. That's something, again, sort of be market leadership. There's a whole bunch of market leadership activities. So forum marketing is one thing. So, being regularly active in a forum, Facebook and Twitter, obviously that's social media. How can we forget social media? So, being regular on your Facebook page and posting stuff there regularly, and being active on Twitter and posting there is a huge thing to sort of manage that conversation and things like that. So
that's pretty impressive. Anything else that we're missing right now?
Look, there's plenty of stuff. That's enough to keep someone busy for a month.
Right.
To sort of do that sort of stuff.
And one of the things that you're going to talk about later, but it's something that I was really excited about the very first time that we spoke.
Yep.
And that was that your belief, which I totally agree with, but never really thought about it until you kind of broke it down, is that you have all this and it's all pointing to your website and you have products there for sale.
Yep.
But like, what if you had numerous ones of these?
Absolutely.
Right? So that it wasn't just one place that all this traffic and all these links and all this marketing was going to, but it was actually numerous ones, all with the same amount of stuff pointing to. So ultimately, you weren't selling whatever you sell, right? Whatever you market in one place, but in 10 places,
absolutely,
right? And how much of a difference that would make. And then the circles around each one of those, and all of a sudden, you start doing that, and it's 10 times more complicated than even the U diagram, which I told people to avoid because I just didn't see a way that people could get it all done. So they needed to be much more strategic and just pull back picking a few things, right? But what you've added to the mix is that you can be strategic and you can get it all done and you can cut your time down to a fraction. And while it's certainly amazing how much actually got done, what is more mind-blowing to me than anything else is how little you had to do to get all those things done. Because if you had to work like a maniac and you were just jumping around doing 500 things with your head cut off, that really wouldn't be that impressive. No. But this idea of doing this one thing, well, why don't you talk about it for just a second?
I refer to it as doing the core element and then having a system in place to give you syndication and leverage and repurposing to get everything else out there with you only doing one core input.
And I want everyone to really understand that. Imagine starting your day where you're doing one thing that you're good at, one thing that you enjoy, one thing that when you do it, you're proud of it. And that one thing gets turned into everything else. So your work is done. You do the one thing that you enjoy, the one thing, right? And then by process, by system, it automatically gets turned out to the world in a way that is effective, in a way that grows your business. And so you're working so much less. You're doing those things you enjoy. And yet, at the same time, you're making more than ever before. Your results are growing and growing, stacking upon each other, gaining momentum, and your business grows, your profits grow, and ultimately the money you make multiplies time after time after time because you're putting out into the world high value stuff, but what you're doing is that one thing that you enjoy most. If we can go back to this for a second, I'm going to rip this down, and hopefully we won't have to put it back up. Let's just talk about the podcast for just for a second here, so that we can kind of give people just a better understanding of exactly what is going on, right? So, okay, cool. So, like, you know, you recorded the podcast here, right? You spent a half an hour, it was pretty casual, and now that podcast was it already turned into a YouTube video?
So the first thing is it's getting edited up.
Right.
So it's being edited into an actual podcast itself.
So it's already there.
It's already there right now,
right.
Absolutely.
So it was edited, and it was, you know, so you recorded it. We're going to assume that, okay, it's the podcast.
Yep, so it's in iTunes.
Right, and that's in iTunes. And then it's also
on my blog. So the actual podcast has a website itself, so it's actually on the website as a blog post people can find from a search engine perspective. So that's a big thing.
Okay.
Yep. We also have a transcript created, so that's going to be created off the back of this. That transcript will not only sit on the blog as well, but that transcript as a PDF can get submitted to Scribed, which is a PDF distribution platform. So people who go to Scribe to read information and learn stuff will find a transcript on that topic. We also have a video created. So the actual raw audio format or file of the podcast is turned into a video, which will be put onto YouTube. So that's
it won't only be put on YouTube,
that's
though, right? That's like this, right?
Exactly.
So like a video, right?
So
and then that video can be put on Vimeo,
Vidler, Dailymotion.
Right. So like we could go here and say YouTube, and you know there were some questions about. There were some questions about duplicate content, and I don't know if you know the answer to that, but from my perspective, you know, there's a reason to do stuff for links, right? But there's also a reason to do stuff to be there so that people can find you.
See, this is I'm not an SEO guy.
Neither am I.
This is my belief, and this is my frustration with SEO. Backlinking and SEO, in my opinion, should be a byproduct of solid marketing.
Yeah.
I think doing SEO for SEO's sake may have worked historically, but you know, with Google algorithm changes and social media, it's so much more about sharing and stuff like that that is driving the algorithm these days. And I think that is, if you produce good content, that comes as a byproduct.
And I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And you know, it's silly to think you're going to outsmart Google. I mean, Overstock.com, a $350 million company, lost all of their top 3 rankings like back in February of this year because they got caught buying EDU links. Right? Like, we're talking about a $350 million company. If it can happen to a $350 million company, it can happen to you. And if it happens to you, good luck trying to get someone at Google on the phone to explain what happened and to get anything different. So anyway, okay, so we did all this. Now, will it be turned into an article?
It'll be turned into an article. So what will happen is a team will create an article, which can actually be a standalone blog post on my actual website.
So that'll then turn into a blog post?
Yep, and then it can be a guest blog post.
It can be a guest blog post?
It can be a magazine article. Now, when it comes to the article sort of stuff, this is where I start considering actually duplicate content as a potential issue, is that I'll actually get the article created in 3 or 4 different times, so actually rewritten 3 or 4 different times. So the blog post is different to the guest post, but it's not me doing it.
And it's not spun.
And it's not spun. No, it's not spun
at all. It's not like weird language, it makes no sense, and now you look like you're illiterate, and that doesn't build your brand.
So it's high quality, engaging content, but I've only done one thing, that was a podcast. But I've now got a blog post, a guest post, and a magazine article off that, from me only doing one core piece of input.
And it's not only that though, because I still believe that even if you didn't get search engine credit for each of those things, you're still in places where you are going to be found. Like when you do a guest blog post, if you're on a blog that actually gets traffic, then you're going to be exposed to a new audience. And so that's what you should be focused on. You know, let the internet marketing side of things kind of take care of themselves by just doing great things.
Exactly.
You know. So what else happens? Is there
a press release?
We have a press release?
Yeah. So what we actually do as well is we actually announce every podcast release as a press release. We do that through Vocus, which is the owners of PR Web. Super cheap. You know, I guess, you know, in terms of budget, people go, oh, budget, and we'll touch on budget in a moment. But for those who don't know, there's actually a subscription service you can subscribe to if you're doing this regularly. You know, a few grand a year, which works out to be less than $10 a day. You can send press releases out through PR Web. So, you know, you do a press release for less than $10 on PR Web. So that press release, you know, $5 on Fiverr gets it written.
Which is like an amazing tip, because when he was talking about this before we did the live stream today, I was like, let's get on that, because I never knew that you could get it that cheap.
So the press release we send out through PR Web is created on Fiverr for $5. So it's a $5 press release, then $10 to get it out there. So $15 gets a press release announcing the podcast, positions me as an expert, and gets tons of backlinks pointing to that podcast on the blog. So that's the SEO relevance there as well, is that there's a lot of traffic driving to the actual podcast webpage now.
Now, in some way or shape or form, it's getting on Facebook, right?
Yep. So obviously, you know, we're sharing Facebook, Twitter, all the social media stuff is happening off the back of, you know, the blog post. So when we do a blog post, that feeds straight through to my Facebook and Twitter account, announcing stuff automatically without me doing anything, because there's simple applications and tools that do that for me.
Pete got to do what he enjoyed doing, which is talking to Dom.
Yep.
Right? About marketing. They probably do that for free, like when there's not even a business purpose, right?
Yep.
They talk shop, right? So Pete got to talk shop for half an hour, and then look at all the stuff that is happening for his business while he's off doing other things, right? And this is the concept that we're sharing here, and we're not even really, you know, this article can be syndicated in more places, the video can be syndicated in more places, you can take that transcript and do more things with it, right? That transcript can be cut up, and anything that, you know, at least for me, like, I find that the most intelligent, smartest things I say are sometimes out of the blue. I have no idea where they came from, and I'm like, oh my God, like, we got to capture that, right? And you know, it's like I did this Q&A call like about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and some of the answers just blew me away, and I was like, I have no idea where those answers came from.
I'm in the zone today.
Yeah, I ran to Kat, and I was like, we got to figure out how to use that Q&A call in as many places as possible and cut it up, because like, I don't know, like, that I'm not that smart, right? Like, and somehow like something channeled me that day. So, you know, this is such a great way of representing what's going on here. That this one thing that he enjoys doing, he does. It takes him a half an hour, and then look at all the stuff that's happening for his business. And you know, the alternative is what most people experience, which is like they think about doing the podcast. It seems like a lot of work, and they're not really going to get much done. So the podcast might be like half done. And because it's not done, right, like nothing happens here, nothing happens here, and nothing happens here, right? Or they spend their entire day, they get the podcast done, and maybe they get it out to, you know, iTunes.
But then they have to write a blog post. They go off and actually write a brand new blog post and invest 2 hours writing that.
And that's it, right? Like, so who wants to do that? Like, no wonder you're procrastinating. No wonder you don't want to, like, even think about your business. And no wonder, like, you're not getting the results you want, because there's a big difference between this and that. And that's the point.
You're right. So many people I speak with just don't want to get started because their to-do list is so overwhelming. And even if they do start, they feel like it's never going to end.
Yeah, and I mean, who wants to start anything if there's no end in sight? And that end is what needs to happen in order for you to make money, right? So whether it's a to-do list that never ends, whether it's uncertainty that these are the tasks that I should be doing that are actually going to make me money, grow my business, or whether it's that I know I'm doing certain things I probably shouldn't be doing, or things that are very difficult for me, I don't know how to do them, and so I might spend 2 or 3 hours doing something with no payoff whatsoever, right? All this friction is so draining on the entrepreneur, and it's no wonder why so many people are struggling or not starting.
And I think the beautiful thing from the live stream was how many people actually got to take action straight away. There was actually stuff I shared that they could actually go and implement, and we got so many videos on YouTube within 24 hours of people actually taking action and making progress they hadn't made before.
Well, I think that shows really two things. One, that there's this overwhelming demand for this, right? People get it. They understand that they need a system or a process to leverage what it is they're good at and not try and learn 150 new things to get an outcome. And then the other thing is just how inspiring that live stream was, because literally you did your 6-hour thing and then immediately some people took action, and for those people it could have been 3 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and yet they saw this better way of doing things, and it was a light clicked on for them. They're like, oh my God, you mean that this to-do list that never ends could be shortened to one task, and it happens to be my favorite task, and all I need to do is that, and I'm going to get the outcomes I want, and I can cross everything off my to-do list? I'm down for that. And so they immediately jumped into work.
And that was so cool to see.